Good morning. My name is Patresa Sloan, and I'm a mother, a granddaughter, a wife, and an Army veteran. And I am proud of all those things. I'm 33 years old, and although my biological mother and father had given me life, I was raised by my grandparents until I was 7 years old. I returned to my mother after a serious accident. Had left my grandfather in a coma. My grandmother could not care for me or my grandfather. So I survived the next 7 years of beatings, molestation, and chaos until I took my last beating at the age of 14. Thankfully, my grandmother took me back. She sat in the courtroom every day while I testified to the fact that my mother had let a man rape me. Having to testify at the age of 14 was one of the most humiliating and degrading moments in my life. I spent the next 3 years working full-time and going to school until I was old enough to join the United States Army. I spent approximately 14 years in the Army with just a small break in service. My whole life, people told me that I wouldn't amount to much of anything, and I was honored to serve my country. It felt like I was needed in my life for the first time. I met and married the man of my life while I was in the service, only to find out that once again I would experience devastating domestic violence that would go on for years. My ex-husband is now serving a 6-year prison sentence. When I was discharged from the Army in 2012 due to degenerating knees and back and PTSD, I found myself lost. I wasn't needed anymore. My marriage had ended after 14 years, and I had 2 small boys and no way to support them. I went back to college, but only to drop out when my grandmother needed 24-hour care. When I lost my grandmother, it was more like losing a mom. This is when things began to spiral out of control. I was soon alone with my boys in a motel with no job, a totaled car, and feeling desperate. All the homeless shelters were full, and I was beginning to lose all hope. I ended up at the VA emergency room pleading for help. But once again, I was turned away with the same numbers that I had already called. And I thought this was it. We're going to be homeless, sleeping under a bridge. Until the last person I spoke with suggested one place that I hadn't called yet, and that was Volunteers of America Veteran Services. So I called and spoke with Melissa, the VOA intake coordinator, and she made me an appointment for the very next morning. Before hanging up the phone, she said, "Don't worry, I promise you, everything's going to be all right." The next morning, I walked through the doors of VOA and sat across the desk from Donna, and she said, "There's no need to worry. Everything's going to be all right." And it was. They got us all into housing that night, and it didn't stop there. Frank Fawcett and Chris Mann went above and beyond to help me get a job. And today, I get to work with adults with disabilities at Pride Industries, and I love it. It's a perfect fit for me. I get to wake up every morning and look forward to my day. You know, having a home and a job is really important, but the emotional support I received from the VOA is what kept me going. Frank would not give up on me when I wanted to give up on myself, and he kept me trucking along. I've come so far in only 7 months. I plan on finishing my criminal justice degree and hope to purchase a home within 5 years. I want my boys to have a stable foundation and the love and support that I never had growing up. You know, people talk about how certain organizations help them a lot. And I would say that Volunteers of America didn't only help me, but they have changed my life forever. And for that, I am truly grateful. Thank you.